Are you wanting to stay in the loop of all things iRacing? Then you've come to the right place. This is the IR Download. The green flag is out and the IR Download is underway. I'm Justin Prince. Today is July 16, 2020. Welcome to episode 1 of the newest iRacing related podcast. The IR Download is your newest home to learn the main storylines from the top teams and series on the service, interviews, and more. But with that, let's get started. During today's episode, we will be speaking with Keegan Leahy, Joshua K. Rogers, and Evan Seay. But first, it's time for your headlines of the week. Strategy was the name of the game in this year's edition of the iRacing 24 Hours of Spa powered by VCO. Fierce Coanda Simsport's 108 car drove the McLaren MP4 12C GT3 to victory by more than 20 seconds after being able to save enough fuel during the race to cut out an entire pit stop. That was despite having several spins during the night. MSI eSport Reds McLaren and Bauer Racing Team's BMW rounded off the podium. It was the strongest run seen from a McLaren GT3 on the service in years. More than 1,600 teams and more than 5,000 drivers took part in this year's 24 Hours of Spa. After an intense title fight, Andre Castro is the inaugural Euro NASCAR eSports Series champion. The 21-year-old University of Chicago student and DF1 racing driver finished second in the double points Spain season finale at Circuit Zolder on July 14th to clinch the title. Hendricks Motorsports' Tobias Dauenhauer took home the round victory by more than a second. As a reward for winning the championship, Castro and DF1 Racing's number 22 car will start the real-world NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series season with a 40-point advantage in the team standings. The real-world season is currently scheduled to start in Italy on September 12th. Calling all livery designers, BMW Motorsport has launched a new iRacing color scheme design contest. Part of the grand prize, a chance to see their fresh paint featured on BMW's real car at the 2020 DTM Championship finale in November. BMW wants designers to showcase their work by using iRacing and its newest car on the service, the BMW M4 GT4. These designs will be decided by a panel of judges, including BMW Works driver Bruno Spengler, BMW Motorsports head of design Michael Scully, and artist Chao Fei, to decide which paint schemes will go to the final online voting stage in the fall. The chosen paint scheme will also be made available to all iRacing users, with the winning designer receiving $3,000 US, while second and third place will receive $2,000 and $1,000 US respectively. The deadline for submissions is August 5th. For more information, visit bmw-motorsport.com. And finally, a new dirt car has been confirmed. After months of speculation, iRacing Executive Vice President and Executive Producer Steve Myers announced on Twitter on July 14th that Big Block Modifieds will be coming to the service in the near future. No ETA has been given for its release. The tweet comes days after social media manager Greg West had said several tracks, including New York-based dirt racing facility Weedsport Speedway, and changes to the dynamic dirt service model were in the pipeline. Weedsport Speedway, which opened in 1955, is known for hosting several series events each year, including 2 Super Dirt Car Series Big Block Modified races. And those are your headlines heading into July 16, 2020. Now, also on July 14th, the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series visited the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the 9th time in series history, and the first time since 2018. Richmond Raceway eSports driver Jimmy Mullis entered the night as the most recent winner at the track. He left the Magic Mile by making some history.
Mullis to the white flag, presented by iRacing.
The battle is for fourth on back, but up in front, Jimmy Mullis looks back, has a car length between himself and Matt Busa. Ottinger in third. He's able to manage the gap. How far does Busa sail it in here on the final lap?
2 car lengths the difference. Mullis just needs to get safely through the quarter. Busa going to be too far back. And Jimmy Mullis, first win of 2020. The 46 gets it done at New Hampshire.
That was Evan Pizzoco and Tim Terry on the call on iRacing social media platforms. Mullis is now the second two-time winner at the track in series history, the other person being Michael Conti. It's also just the third time in 9 events in Loudon, where the driver who led the most laps went on to win the race. Those are 2 times being Conti's 2012 and 2013 victories. It was a rough race, meanwhile, for the current points leader, Keegan Leahy. After getting involved in an early crash, the Halifax, Nova Scotia-based driver recovered to a P22 finish. The Denny Hamlin eSports driver now joins me on the IR download. Keegan, first things first, how are you feeling after that race?
Hi. Well, you might be surprised to hear that I'm actually pretty happy with that result. So what I'm going for here in these next, well, we got 6 races to go. I have about an 82-point gap on the cutoff for the playoffs. So it's really only about making the final 8 and then maybe pick up a few wins here and there. I wasn't going to beat Jimmy that race. That guy was flying. So, all I really need is to pick up a decent amount of points to maintain my gap, which I did. I actually extended it by a couple points. So I'm actually happy. Obviously a bit disappointed that I didn't I wasn't able to show my pace for most of the race. I was pretty quick. Bobby did pretty well and ran top 10 most of the race, and yeah, it was just disappointing and boring, and spent a lot of the race on old tires, but yeah, it's all right.
Now, curious about this as well, because from the perspective from the broadcast trailer and from the broadcast booth, it seemed like a very crazy New Hampshire race with 11 total caution flags, 50 plus caution laps in total, and several big ones. What was kind of your viewpoint as the race progressed and your opinions on how that race played out?
Right, so I spent a lot of the race about, well, 1 or 2 laps down because I had to pit and repair damage to the radiator and take tape off because I was overheating. So I ended up 2 laps down and I needed to recover. And we have limited tire sets now, right? So I actually took tires on my green flag stop when I lost 2 laps. So I was a set down on everybody. So not only did I have to gain these laps back, but I also had to not take tires the whole time. So I didn't really get to see most of the race until all of that carnage started happening. But honestly, I did expect it to happen. That's why I was able to not take tires, because I knew there would be cautions at the end of the race. So I waited until that carnage started breaking out, and then I took my tires and I was able to pick people off and slowly claw my way back up through the field. But yeah, it's pretty much expected for this track because it's a progressively banked flat track where the preferred groove by yourself changes, let alone when you're 2x2 or even 3 wide with people. The etiquette's kind of a gray area, right? You don't really know what lane you're supposed to take when you're on the inside or when you're on the outside. And, you kind of saw that happen with me and Eric when he wanted to take a lot of the track on entry and I was going to take the third groove. I guess he wanted it as well. And then you see people ahead, maybe taking the 4th lane, like driving in the asphalt, So that's what kind of leads to these crashes and these issues with this track in particular is people don't know what lane they're supposed to take. There's no etiquette. So, and it's also a flat track, a short track like Richmond earlier this year where we had similar issues and a lot of cautions at the end of the race. So pretty much to be expected here.
How do you keep your cool in those types of races then? Especially since, of course, one of the main additions back in June was the ability for spectators to be able to view what drivers were saying and listen in on what drivers were saying. Alex McCollum said he wanted to go home. What was kind of your reaction in the cockpit?
I think Alex was just tired. It was 5 laps to go. We've been there for like 2 hours pacing around. We were also doing like an extra lap of pacing every time. So, I mean, that's not good for the broadcast and it's not good for us when we're tired and just want to finish the race up and had that extra 1.5-minute long pace lap to do. But yeah, it's sorry, I'm kind of forgetting your first part of the question.
Basically, how do you keep your cool in those types
Right,
of incidents?
yes. So that's something I like to say is one of my strengths, honestly. So I was actually talking to my spotter, Mitchell DeYoung, about this. We had a little heart-to-heart conversation, and I was talking about how I kind of feel bad that I don't get super excited for stuff. Like when I win a race and, when I'm doing well and when everything's going great, I'm just kind of status quo. I just go with it and just try to perform my best, and I'm satisfied with my results when I do well. But on the flip side, when bad stuff happens, I also am able to keep my cool and I don't get overly emotional about stuff. So when I had my issues in the start of the race and ended up 2 laps down, never did I get frustrated, never did I, get tilted, as some people would say. I just got my cool and tried to maximize the hand I was dealt. And that's pretty much what you have to do all the time to be successful in this series. And, that's why I think I've made, well, kind of jumping the gun here, but I think I'll make the playoffs this year and made it my other 2 years as well. And I think there's only a couple other guys that have done the same thing. And those people, like Michael Conti, I'm pretty sure, either made it every year, or maybe he missed one. And then Ryan Luza does really well. Two people that keep their emotions in check and are very consistent with their driving and their attitude towards racing.
Now, you hit upon that there's, of course, many races still left in the regular season and the importance of keeping consistency to make the playoffs. What has been the mindset been like and the focus been like for you and your technical alliance to make sure you keep the momentum going and stay within that top 8? Because if you remember back from last year, for example, Luza missed the final race of the regular season, lost a lot of momentum for the postseason.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing because especially like someone in my situation where I'm pretty safe, it's easy to kind of slack a bit and, just ride to the end of the regular season. And I think there's a few guys that do that. People have done that the last couple of years where they get pretty much locked in and they do well, and then they run around 20th for 5 races in a row, and then they kind of lose that momentum. And whether it's, losing development pace on the setups or just getting out of that rhythm and like losing that sort of work ethic, you got to try to avoid doing that. So that's what I'm going to push myself to do. Just make sure I'm treating every single race like it's an important race for me. Something like I got to treat myself like I'm trying to scrap my way into the playoffs, even though I'm pretty safe, because I want to be able to have good results and have a good sense of momentum going into the playoffs. Now, with that said, there's a lot of different types of racetracks coming up. We've got Daytona and Talladega, which are pretty much the same, but then we got like a Watkins Glen race in Michigan, and where else are we going? Help me out.
Also going to Darlington and Las Vegas
yeah,
on top of that.
right. Yeah, Darlington's going to be a crazy one. So these types of tracks, they're all different. You need to set up the cars completely different. You need to drive them completely different. And it's going to be tough to maintain top of the front of the field pace for all of those tracks, but I'm hoping I can for my favorite ones, like Michigan coming up is a track I like.
Overall, how do you build a car to be competitive for Michigan, in your opinion, especially since it's 2 miles, it's flat, and last year was a pack race?
Right, and if you remember last year, we actually somehow broke away from the pack.
Yeah, exactly. You were the best car in the long run.
Yeah, so that's what you got to do is you got to try to find the advantages when they matter. So last year it mattered on the long run how your car handled. It didn't really matter on the short run. So that's the type of stuff you got to do to set yourself apart from the pack. Is to try to like pick out a part of the run or a strength that you can have, whether it's your long run speed or your short run speed or driving in the pack or driving on the high side or being maneuverable, that sort of stuff. Just got to try to find something that other people aren't doing and try to use that to your advantage. I haven't started testing for Michigan yet. We'll probably do some testing on that in the next couple days and then go really hard in the week leading up to it. But Michigan's a track where you got to do a lot of pack racing testing. You can't just drive by yourself and do a bunch of laps by yourself because it's not representative of what the race will be like.
As well, when it comes to this season and the amount of effort needed to try and build setups throughout a campaign to be competitive, what is kind of the mindset for an eNASCAR technical alliance organization or team? How many hours has to be put in for that to have that success?
Yeah, that's a great question, honestly. Hours matter, but so does efficiency. So if you're spending 100 hours working on a setup and you're just trying the same thing over and over, or making little minor tweaks and like spending a long time just fine tuning one particular idea, you're not going to get very far. You have to efficiently try everything and find directions, and that's where the skill comes in too. I like to think I'm a pretty good setup builder, and I've surrounded myself with a couple other really strong setup builders who are really good at this as well. And that's why we're pretty much, I think we're the smallest team, or I should say technical alliance, in the Coca-Cola series, where we've only got 3 guys working on the setups at all, or even driving the cars. So it's me, Bobby Zelensky, and Chris Sherburne. And even though we're the smallest group, and we probably put in the least amount of time total, like man hours, we're able to do it very efficiently. And that's why we have success.
One thing I've heard too, as well, on top of that, is there are some drivers who love testing but loathe racing against our people. Others who don't like to practice or don't like the testing, just want to race. Where's that middle ground or preference for you to carry the speed you and your team has had throughout the season?
Right. So I'm one of those guys that likes testing more than racing, probably. It's nice being in a controlled environment and seeing how your speed progresses, and you're your only competition. Or you might be comparing against your teammates, but you're in the same conditions and you know exactly how fast they're going. And what we do is we compare lap times in a spreadsheet. So we'll do 30 lap runs, and through the whole week, we'll see how much we can improve. It's usually just squeezing these hundredths of a second out. So, and then, if let's say Bobby is 300ths faster than me on average per lap through a run, that's a big problem because that adds up to like a second after 30 laps or so. So it's the inter-team competition and also the personal competition with yourself that I really like. So racing, it's a lot more frustrating because there's so many variables and you never know, okay, did I really lose a lot of time because of my driving, or was it the setup, or was it the strategy, or was it the dirty air, or the circumstances? Like, it's really hard to piece that together and get information out of it. So that's why I really like testing. But yeah, through the rest of the season, we're just going to continue what we've been doing. Probably just put a little bit of extra time in. Just to give you some numbers, I put about 20 hours of preparation per race normally. A lot of practice would be 30 to 40 hours, which would be like a road course or the championship finale last year, for example. That's in 2 weeks, so it's not like it's a ridiculous amount of time. It's a lot of time, but it's not a full-time job or anything. So there's always room to ramp it up, but the problem is there's diminishing returns, right? So it's important not to burn yourself out, and you don't want to loathe yourself after doing like 100 hours of preparation for one race and then get wrecked on the first lap.
One thing to think about too is the push towards going to national cable television coming up for the series as well for the closing stages. What are your thoughts on having that opportunity in the next few weeks to be able to showcase yourself on NBCSN for the final 6 races or so on the schedule?
Yeah, so we got a little bit of exposure to that last year. We had 2 exhibition races, and then we capped it off with that championship finale on NBC Sports Network. So I'd like to think iRacing's got this pretty much down. Also with the eNASCAR Pro Invitational they had with the real guys earlier this year. There's a lot of experience now with national cable television, so I think it'll go really well. It's really great for us and the teams because there's a lot more exposure, a different audience too, right? So this is a really, like, not only will we have more viewers, but it's also a huge opportunity to expose ourselves to a fan base that hasn't really seen much iRacing before, or maybe they've only seen the Pro Invitational earlier this year, and they'll be able to see how the sim racing pros do it. And it's a different kind of racing, honestly, compared to the Pro Invitational. Like everyone's so close together on speed, and everyone drives so close to each other, and sometimes that breaks out into chaos, but usually it's long green flag runs too. So it's a different type of racing, and I think people will really enjoy it, and it'll be a really good showcase for the type of product we can offer.
Anything else you'd like to say that I didn't ask about, or you want the fans to know about you and your team?
We didn't really talk about Denny Hamlin Racing too much,
yes.
or Casey Kerwan, so
Yeah,
yeah, really happy he's finally getting great results. He recovered, like him and I were in the back at the end of that race. We were something like 35th and 36th with 20 laps to go. He ended up 16th and I got 22nd. So really awesome recovery for him. He's finally getting some decent luck through the season. We're going for the team championship this year. This wasn't that great of a race, so we got to do a little bit better than this race to go for the team championship. But Denny Hamlin's put a lot of effort into getting this team as good as it can be, and he's spent a lot of personal time with us, especially through the Pro Invitational. So really happy to be part of that team. And check out Virtual Racing School Direct Force Pro steering wheel that I'm using. Super awesome product, and we're releasing it now in the US.
Thank you very much for the time, Keegan.
Yeah, thanks, Justin.
That was Keegan Leahy from Denny Hamlin eSports.
All of the work was done in the preparation for this event, testing the different cars, keeping abreast of the BOP changes in GT3, making sure you had the correct choice of car, and Coanda chose brilliantly. They found a car that had decent pace, incredible fuel saving, and then of course they have their amazing three drivers. It is going to be Joshua Rogers and the VRS Coanda Simsport team take the victory of the 24 hours of Spa-Francorchamps, the VCO Motorsport Grand Slam, to them 20 seconds ahead of MSI Esports Red.
That was Ben Constanduris on the call at the Checker Flag on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network for the 2020 24 Hours of Spa, powered by VCO. The driver behind the wheel at that moment was Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup points leader Joshua K. Rogers, and he now joins me on the IR Download. Thank you for taking the time to do this today. How are you today?
No worries, mate. I'm good. Hopefully you're the same. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, a very good day, and a very good day overall for your team over the weekend. What were your overall thoughts on how that race progressed for you and for VRS Coanda Simsport?
Obviously it was a challenging one from the beginning. I think, we all knew that the McLaren was going to have a slight fuel advantage, which was the main reason why we picked the car. We had a couple issues through the night, and the speed wasn't necessarily where we wanted it to be. So we kind of found ourselves kind of bouncing up and down the order quite often, being out of sequence with the strategy, which made things a little bit more challenging as a driver to try and kind of prepare yourself for, because obviously you kind of needed to then pick and choose a little bit more when you were going to push during your stints, whether it was when you've got the advantage over the other guys from the fresh tire when they're still on the old one, or etc. So definitely spice things up a little bit. But I think going into the race, we were obviously always going to go in there with the mindset of pushing as hard as we can to win. But I think it was quite a close one in the end, so it was exciting.
Now, one of the main things which comes up in terms of these events is the amount of preparation. How much prep work, first off, did you and your team do to find those differences in the cars after the last build, especially after the McLaren had its biggest BOP updates since 2018?
Obviously there was a lot of back end work that went in from our side of things, testing all the cars, testing them over long runs, testing fuel consumption, fuel fill rates, tire wear, all these sorts of things, trying to really, really make sure that we had our mindset on the right car. I think the McLaren probably wasn't the quickest car overall, but for a 24-hour race, that's not necessarily the most important thing. So we picked it on its strengths of that fuel mileage and tire conservation. Like I say, a lot of effort went into that. There was probably a good, at least in the lead up, from all of us combined, probably 20 to 30 hours testing all the different cars. From everyone across the team. So obviously, I guess that averages out to 5 or so each. There was a lot that went into it for that. And obviously, to getting the BOP the week of the race means everything's kind of crammed in. You kind of really want to have your car pretty much chosen and set on by at least Wednesday or Thursday at the very, very latest, because you still obviously then have to maximize the car that you have. So, yeah, always quite a lot of back end work that goes into these endurance races to make sure that you've got the right car, because sometimes it can be the be all end all of basically setting up your race or ending it before you even begin.
How difficult is it to plan as well on top of that, around that, with how many events you and your teammates do in the World Championship events and some of the other major events across the iRacing service?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. Usually for World Championship races, we're only generally preparing for like the week of the race. Obviously, when we've got the time beforehand, we'll do it for a couple of weeks. But like in this case for Spa, for example, we were focusing on that instead of the Super Cup. So it can be a little bit tricky to try and kind of manage time in that sense, I suppose. Obviously, I guess this year we don't have as many LAN events to try and work around, so that makes things a little bit easier from that time perspective. But yeah, with all these special events always on iRacing, and whether there's other events popping up on other sims around, it is always very, very difficult to try and manage the time well enough that you're not hindering one series or the other, so you're able to kind of give maximum effort into everything you do. So it's challenging, but I think for the most part, everyone on the team does a fantastic job at working around that, and we don't leave a stone unturned. So we're always we're always trying to at least prepare as well as we can beforehand, because obviously, of course, we have the data packs and tutorials for virtual racing school, coaching on the side of that as well. So there's a lot of time planning and scheduling that goes in behind the scenes.
Now, during the race itself, one thing that was noticed throughout the broadcast, especially in the first parts of the race, was you and your fellow team car, the 118 machine, were able to stretch the field runs to 27 laps. Mostly every other team in the entire race could only get to 25 or 26. Part of that's in preparation, yes, but how difficult was it in the race itself to be able to reach that mark while making sure you were still in that net time you needed for that strategy for one less pit stop to work?
Yeah, I mean, at least for us, I think because the McLaren could easily do 26 laps pushing flat out, I think we only had to save like half a lap of fuel or something over the course of a stint to be able to go that extra lap to 27. I think MSI kind of were more so focusing on just pushing and trying to get the most speed out of their car, which was working for them for sure. And for us, for the most part, we were just trying to save the fuel at least as much as we needed, and then from then on we could push to the end. And I think at least that was an advantage that McLaren had that literally every other car didn't. Everyone else was having to save to get to 26 even. So I guess that was an advantage that that very few teams had in the race. But yeah, it was always really, really difficult to manage the fuel and still stay within the lap time target, especially when you were battling with other guys. In the first stint, especially with MSI hot on our tail basically the whole way, it was quite tricky to save the fuel, but try and stay ahead, or at least try and stay with them. I think they ended up just sitting behind us and doing the exact same thing. I think maybe they ran a little bit short on fuel, but it was basically once the race kind of panned out a little bit more, and everyone was kind of running their own races, traffic wasn't so much of an issue. It was quite easy to be able to run the 27 laps and not have to worry about it. Like the speed was generally okay, and you're also saving the tire a little bit more usually when you're saving the fuel too. So that generally makes the second stint a little bit easier as well.
One thing that didn't make things easy, it seemed, though, was your car spun around twice throughout the night. You touched upon it during the overall reaction, but what was kind of the reaction within the Coanda house at that moment when your car slid off the racetrack a couple times throughout the run and lost about 20, 30 seconds of that cushion?
I mean, we're all still positive. It's important to try and keep the team morale up, especially in situations like that. There's no blame gaming. There's no finger pointing here. Basically, we're all, we win as a team and we lose as a team. And I think, we're all there to support one another, especially in situations like that when really the last thing that someone needs, especially, I mean, I know that if I was in that situation, the last thing I need is someone yelling at me. So we're all trying to stay as positive as we can, kind of bring them back up again as a driver. Just give them a little bit of information here and there, maybe what they need to know. just for like the next few corners or whatever, and then we get on with the job again. But basically at Coanda, I think that's the most important thing anyway, is always trying to keep the team morale up, especially in situations like that. So we were all still very positive, especially, I mean, obviously it was very late at that time during the night, but the most important thing was to always keep up that kind of never give up attitude, and stay positive throughout those times.
Of course, the Coanda House is something a lot of teams, don't have, is their own team house specifically across the iRacing service. How crucial is it to have that kind of a setup for these types of moments, to be able to have that personal connection in person rather than over, say, a TeamSpeak server?
Yeah, it's actually really useful being able to kind of be in this situation, especially during the night stints. Being here with Mac, we're kind of keeping each other awake. It's not like you're sitting in your own room on your own, kind of just silently, just trying to barely stay awake. You've got someone there with you, and it makes things so much easier, especially as well with strategy. With Philip, sometimes on Discord, maybe they're not on at that particular time, or maybe they're sleeping or whatever. But if you really, really need something, you can just go and knock on their door and ask them that way. So I think it's at least in dire situations like that, it makes a massive, massive difference. I think elsewise, it's not massively too different from what we used to, but it's definitely in those situations where it's actually really, really useful to be able to have the tools at our disposal that what we do. It just kind of relieves a little bit of stress, I guess, in that sense. And you're not having to quite worry about so much.
One driver, I believe it was in the 118 car in the backdrop during one of the virtual racing school streams during the race, was actually, I think, swinging around a tennis racket during one of the pit stop sequences, for example. What were some of the other examples you can think of during the 24 hours of spa this year that you and your teammates stayed loose and stayed positive between those stints, as you talked about, to have that personal connection?
I mean, it may have looked like a tennis racket, but no, that was that's a bug killer, that one. So I think I'm not sure whether it was Dave or whether it was, I think maybe it was David. He was
I think it was
dealing with the situation, but no, I mean, I think there was a few times where maybe we just do something a little bit silly to try and boost the positivity. I think there was one point in the night where I posted it on Twitter. I was trying to get my shoe on, and instead of doing it like a normal person who's putting 2 feet on the ground and doing them up that way, I thought I'd try and balance on one foot, and ended up hopping halfway across the room. So it's just little things like that that's especially at that point too, when everyone's just so tired and struggling to maintain focus. Just little things like that can just wake you up just for a little bit longer. And I mean, other than that, to be honest, there wasn't too much. It's still a very focused and driven team here, but it is important to kind of let loose and have a little bit of fun sometimes.
Now the focus starts to shift now in the next couple days to the Porsche Tag Heuer eSports Super Cup race that's taking place at Silverstone. You have a 6-point lead over Sebastian Job in the point standings. How are you feeling heading into the round as the points leader?
Yeah, I mean, obviously race is only a few days away, and I mean, like from a points perspective, I'm not too worried about that at the moment. I think obviously it's very, very close, but on track every single round between myself, Seb, and Max, we've all been ridiculously close on track in terms of speed, racecraft, all these other sorts of things. I think a lot of people have stepped up in leaps and bounds compared to last year, so it obviously makes things really, really difficult, challenging, stressful to say the least, but kind of just trying to go into every round with the same mindset as the last, just trying to score points, grab positions where you can, points where you can, wins maybe where you can, and see where you end up. I think it's not really until like the last few rounds that you really start to look at the championship and try and calculate things. Depending on what kind of situation you're in, obviously. If you're the chaser, then you might take a few more risks. But yeah, I think we'll just be going into this one like any other and trying to score points without taking too much of a risk. I mean, we're not really that far into the season still, so I think that's going to be the main focus for me. Speed-wise, though, I feel comfortable. I feel good, but obviously, it's very difficult to know where you are truly until it comes race day. So it'll be interesting to see, and I'm always eager to kind of await seeing where we're at pace wise, but should be fun.
One thing do have to ask as well, though, is there was, of course, the troubles that happened in terms of some of the timing at France, and of course, the postponing of the round at the Nürburgring. How did those changes now affect how you've planned for that season to plan for how those points will go, especially with those races now being essentially shuffled down to the end of the schedule?
To be honest, like for me personally, it hasn't really changed anything. I think I mean, basically, it's just more so thinking of that the round coming up is practically round 4 instead of round 6, really. So it's pushing us, obviously making the season a little bit longer, but I think it's for the better. And I think for us, the approach stays exactly the same. I guess it means I'm thinking a little bit more short term than long term. But other than that, to be honest, it hasn't really changed much. No.
Overall, though, what type of race should we expect to see come on July 18th?
I mean, Silverstone always manages to produce some great racing. Sometimes it's not the easiest track to pass at, but then at the same time, that usually tends to mean that a few more risks are taken. So usually it's really, really good. I think last year the racing was quite strong there. There's a lot of corners where you can go too wide. It's very difficult to complete and execute a pass, but often one corner leads into another. So, if you're on the inside of one, you're on the outside for the next, and you're on the inside for the one after that. So it always, usually because of that, puts on a good show. And I think that's something that we'll definitely expect to see. Draft has been quite strong this season. So I think closing speeds will be quite large, and I think in pack racing as well, you might see 3 wide and stuff like that quite often at the end of long straights. So no, it should be exciting, and fingers crossed we can make it through the first opening few laps and mount a charge. But no, it should put on some awesome exciting racing. Maybe not quite to the level that Le Mans had, but certainly compared to, I guess, somewhere like Spa, it's probably going to put on similar racing to that.
Is there anything else that I didn't ask about that you feel that the fans should know about you or how the team is coming into this weekend?
Well, I think obviously coming off Spa, team morale's about as high as it could be in the short term. So I think all of us are really pushing to the maximum as a team. We're really coming together. So expect to see a few more red and white Coanda cars up the pointy end, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I think as a team we're really preparing well for this one, so should be good.
Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today, Josh.
No worries, it was a pleasure.
That was Joshua K. Rogers of VRS Coanda Simsport. On July 13th, the iRacing World of Outlaws Morden Building's Late Model World Championship said hello to the virtual Outdoor Speedway, but after Hayden Cardwell suffered technical issues during his heat and had to battle in an LCQ for a second round in a row, the battle for the points lead and the feature win was blown wide open.
White flag one more time around for the 127 car, Blake Majulis out of Asheville, New York. He makes his way up the back straight for the final time. Here tonight at the Eldora Speedway, he'll become the 4th different winner in 4 races with the series. He makes a statement here tonight, absolutely dominating at the Big E. Blake Majulis will get the win and the $300.
That was Chase Rodman and I on the call on iRacing social media platforms. The driver who finished second in that race was Evan Seay. The Victory Lane Racing driver now enters round 5 with a 5-point lead over Dylan Wilson. The Chesnee, South Carolina-based driver now joins me on the IR download. How are you feeling today, Evan?
It feels pretty good having the points lead finally. It's my second year doing this Pro Series. I don't ever believe we got the points lead last year, but we got into the top 3 last year a few times during the season, but to be where I feel like I'm more consistent this year and finally grabbing the points lead and have a chance at winning this championship, it feels pretty good.
First things first, let's touch upon as well the race that helped get you that points lead. What were your overall thoughts now that you had a few days to reflect on what happened at Eldora?
It's one of my better tracks. I felt like I could I always run good in there. I ran good in there in the last few races I did, so I felt like when I seen Hayden have his troubles, and I felt like I could make a lot of points up in that race, and we was able to do just that, and keep my car clean, and it going green all the way. I felt like I also helped us because Hayden seemed like he was pretty fast, but he wasn't able to move up that far, and that has helped us even more out in the points. But looking back on it, I think that'll be one of the races that's really made this championship battle a whole lot better. And the top three is separated by 7 points, so it's going to be a fight these next few races to stay on top.
One of the interesting things I noticed whenever I asked Alex Bergeron when he was in the lead for the Sprint Car Championship in 2020 was he wasn't concerned about the points lead at that time. One of the big talking points as well, whenever that conversation comes up, is it has never been as difficult as it is now to make a feature or win a feature in this series. Why is that? And how does that competition level compare to your first season, 2019?
I feel like the late models, and I think Alex will tell you also, I feel like the competition is a little bit higher in the late models. I mean, you can just look at the points. Alex is one of the best on dirt oval, and he's sitting eighth in points. I'm sure he would like to be doing better, in points, but it's just a competition level. You can't make there's so many mistakes here in the late models, just because I feel like people are on their A game in these. Not saying there's not a competition in the sprint cars, but I just feel like the level is a little bit higher in the late models. So you got to be on your A game to be able to stay in points, and it's like the top three, and like I said, it's separated by only 7 points of race number 4. So I mean, pretty much everyone in the top 8 is close. So anything can happen still, and you can't just take it easy, because you got to go out there and make sure you can finish good and stay up in points.
Now, on the personal / real world side of things, do a lot of dirt go-kart racing, you hold several track records, and have a few major wins, including at Daytona Kart Week back in 2018. First things first, how did your real world racing career get started?
My family's always been involved in karting, ever since my dad was a kid, so it's kind of natural for me to start karting at a young age, which was like, I believe I was 4 when I started. So it's just something I've always did since I was a kid, and just growing up around it, and I've continued to do it to this day, and I've been able to pick up a lot of big wins and track records, like you said. So the definitely something that I love doing, and I'd like to keep doing.
How big has that family support been throughout your racing career, whether it's been on the real or virtual side so far?
Yes, always. Some people don't have the opportunity to even race in real life on here, but so it's always nice to have that opportunity, and the experience that comes along with it. Because I can apply a lot of things from real life racing to on here, and also vice versa. Just winning this championship can open a lot of doors for people. A chance to go driving a real late model at Charlotte, and that's something that I'd probably never get the chance to do if without this. So this is something that's to support, and everything is just always nice to have.
Was that one of the main draws which attracted you towards iRacing and competing for the iRacing World of Outlaws Morning Building's Late Model World Championship Series then, back in 2019?
Really, I was just looking for something kind of new. I'd messed around with, I don't know if you ever heard of Gran Turismo Sport, but I'd messed around on their they had like a FA championship or whatever, and I'd messed around on there, but I'd kind of seen the dirt oval stuff on iRacing, and since that's what I do in real life with karting, I just felt like it'd be cool to do that. I didn't really know much about the Pro Series, and really in 2018 is when I got started on iRacing. I didn't know a whole lot about the Pro Series, so when I seen they had one, it was just something that I thought it would be cool to be in. I wasn't really thinking about, hey, I could win that, but just that'd be cool to compete in one day, because I love competing with other people and competition, and I'm always trying to win and get better. So it wasn't really that it was something that I think, hey, I could win, or it's $10,000. It was just hey, it's the best of the best. I think I can compete with them, and that's really what got me started into it. And now that I've seen that I can win and compete, it's just made that drive to do good, and possibly win a championship even more.
During that time from 2018 when you joined the service in late June all the way to your rookie season in the campaign, you went from the default 5,500 IR up to more than 6K in just the span of about 12 months. How difficult was that to try and have that journey over that year to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I joined a small team to get ready for the Pro Series, and at the very end of 2018, to run the qualifier series, and some of those guys were from VLR, but really, our rating was never something that I focused on. It was mainly just trying to compete against the best, and our rating kind of naturally came when you're running good with those guys that already have a pretty high I rating. And I think I gained a lot of that during the qualifier series in 2019, and that's just something that kind of came naturally. And over the years, I've been able to get more consistent on here, and I feel like that's one of the things I've improved on this year is just being more consistent, even when I don't maybe have the fastest car or have some bad luck in the races. I'm still able to put out in those top fives and still get good finishes.
How crucial has being a part of Team VLR been a part of your career?
Yeah, I've met a lot of fast guys over here that have been on here a lot longer than me, and just being able to be around other guys that have more experience with you, and just learn from those guys, and be able to build off of that, and just kind of bounce some ideas off them and see what maybe they think about setups, or just how a track is gonna race has only helped me over the years. I feel like only be on here for like 2 years and join in mid 2018, and then become one of the top dirt over racers is definitely it's not easy, but having the experience around me and learning from these guys that knew a whole lot more than I did, it's just definitely made it a little bit easier, and it's pretty cool.
I was going to say some of the drivers a part of your organization run in real world. Some of them are part of the series, of course, as well, and some of them have seen success as former champions or run their own various organizations. How big have been some of those connections been for how your real world career shaped out, if it's been coming up, or overall how those connections have been as your career's progressed?
Yeah, being on a team, as big as VLR, definitely helps you kind of just get your name out there, not only in iRacing, but in real life. Whenever you win on here, people are going to know about it, especially being in the World of Outlaws Pro Series. So, and, a lot of these guys that are on the team I've known, kind of since 2019. So, I've been with them for 2 years, pretty much almost now. And, we all know each other. We're a close group, and, it's just pretty cool to be on a team where, guys are always, just working together. And, most of us, it's just, it's pretty cool. Sometimes you see people, they get on teams and, they don't stay there for that long, but, we're a pretty close group, and, it just makes it even better.
What's your team's process throughout a race week to prepare for each and every one of the rounds throughout the campaign?
Yeah, we try to set up practices maybe for all of us to get on, but, really, I think one of the things that we try not to do is, tell each other when to get on. We just kind of do it naturally. If we all want to get on a certain time during the week, we do, or if just a few of us get on, that's okay. Because a lot of us have different schedules. Some of these guys are like 15 years older than me, or a whole lot older than me, have families of their own. So it's just something that we try to get on, and we have a few league races we might do like on Sunday night, or during the week, just to help prepare us. But also having the knowledge that we have on setups and stuff, we don't have to test a whole lot, but mainly just make a few adjustments. And I try to keep everyone on top of setups. That's just kind of my thing here. I don't really have a whole lot of pressure, none of us tests, but we still try to get on when we can.
What advice would you give to a listener who, say, is just getting started like you were with, say, a small team or on their own, on how they would build up their career and build their own cars to try and get to where you are today?
First of all, you got to spend just a lot of time racing and getting used to driving around other people and never shying away from trying to build your own setups. Because that's something that you can't get far without knowing how to do, and that's setups. I mean, you can get on teams where people can give you setups, but at some point you got to know how to do it yourself. And I feel like that's one of the things that has helped me in this pro series is just having the knowledge and knowing what to do to setups, and getting with a small team in late 2018 and with FTP, and they kind of had a connection to VLR. Having being able to share that setup knowledge with them, and just once I was getting started and kept getting better, it definitely helps out to get on a small team just to bounce ideas off of, and that can only help you get better when you have someone that wants to do good, just as you want to win also.
On July 20th, the series goes back to Lernerville for its second date. In-sim start time for practice is about the same as it was for the first time, around 8 p.m. in-sim time. What's it going to take for you to come away with the checker flag at that track, especially with how dominant Hayden Cardwell was with that 6-second victory, one of the largest, in fact, the largest victory in series history?
That's a tough track, and a lot of guys Wilkes Center probably tell you the same thing, that running the top there is difficult. And Hayden's obviously he's kind of been good since day one there, since that track came out at running the top. And I've always kind of set my car up to be a little bit more smoother, kind of not just pound the top, because I mean, I've seen Hayden run off the edge there plenty of times, especially when you're putting pressure on him. So it's something that you kind of just have to take a calculated risk. And I'm sure he'll be back on top, trying to run the cushion there Monday. So I mean, it's just something we're gonna have to look at. Is it worth trying to get that extra 200ths of a second every single lap and run the top? Possibly going off the edge. Last time we were there, I know Hayden had a few moments where he almost did go off, and I could have been the end of the race for him. So we're just have to see setup wise, if it's something that we can run the top and still be comfortable with, or I felt pretty good at the setup we had there last time. It was definitely we at least had the second fastest car, but if everybody else switches to running the top, we're gonna have to do that also. So we'll just see or try to work on a setup for the top, and hopefully get there and be just as fast as Hayden.
Is there anything else you'd like to say that I didn't ask about, or you want the fans to know about you or what your team's been doing this season?
We're just we're going to take each race one at a time, and if we come out with the points lead at the end of this thing, that'll be good. But to be able to be in this points championship is something special, and it's something that a lot of people try to do, but are just not able to accomplish. So even if we don't come out to win this points, it's still cool to be in it, cool to be competing with these guys, and just with no prizes up and available to win. It's just pretty special to be amongst these group of guys who are not racing and competing for a chance at 10K, or even second place pays a lot. So it's just pretty special, and hopefully we can pull it out at the end of these 10 races.
Thank you very much for the time, Evan.
Thank you.
That was Evan Seay of Team VOR. White flag is in the air. It's the final lap of this week's edition of the IR Download, meaning it's time to hear the upcoming races to watch. Tonight, the Porsche eSports Sprint Challenge Canada heads to the virtual Lime Rock Park for race 3 of the 4-round championship series. Apex Racing TV's broadcast of the action starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on iRacing Esports Network and the Porsche Motorsport Canada Facebook page. On Friday, July 17th, the top technical alliances in oval racing get their turn to battle at the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the eNASCAR iRacing Series. Top split coverage starts at 9 p.m. Eastern on Simsport Esports Network and iRacing Esports Network. Then Saturday morning, the Porsche Tag Heuer eSports Super Cup takes a trip to Silverstone for round number 6 of the 2020 season. Sprint Challenge is scheduled to start at 9 a.m. Eastern, with Super Cup cars hitting the track at 10 a.m. on iRacing's official social media platforms. Later on that day, the Sports Car Open hosts its third and final off-season event of the year, the Oak Tree 300 at VIR. More than 20 teams across the iRacing service are set to take part, including Mini T Racing, Blowhawk React Esport, and more. RaceSpot TV, the iRacing Esport Network's coverage of the 300-minute race starts at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. On the night of July 19th, the iRacing World of Outlaws Morden Buildings Late Model World Championship visits Floridaville Speedway for the second time this summer for round 5 of the 2020 season. Last time the late model slid around the 4/10 mile dirt oval, Hayden Cardwell put on a clinic, winning by a series record 6.4 seconds. Coverage begins at 9 p.m. Eastern on iRacing social media feeds. Then last week, on Tuesday, July the 20th, the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro Series heads to Sin City for race 10 of the 2020 season. 134 laps are on the docket at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Will Nexus eSports and Total Advantage Motorsports continue their domination of the top split? Find out by watching Podium Esports' coverage at 9 p.m. Eastern. The checker flag is out, meaning it's time to say goodbye. I'd like to thank Keegan Leahy, Joshua K. Rogers, and Evan C. for taking the time to appear on episode 1 of the IR Download. Be sure to keep up with the latest episodes by following the show on Twitter at @the_IR_download, Facebook at facebook.com/IR download, and SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/the_IR_download. I'm Justin Prince. Enjoy the rest of your week.